Trump. Yeah, the orange vomit. There's a filmmaker, Alex Holder. He's been on the electric TV recently. He's a British documentary filmmaker, and he recently testified in private to the House J6 Select Committee. And in a podcast interview, the name of the podcast, it's on Yahoo News, it's Skullduggery. I love it. But he said that former president and psychotic mindfuck Donald Trump is living, quote, in cloud Cuckoo-Land, end quote. And the filmmaker said he is incapable of ever acknowledging that his claims about voter fraud are, quote, delusional, end quote. He said in this interview on Skullduggery, quote, Donald Trump is not a rational player. I mean, he just isn't. You can't have a conversation with him in the same way that you can have a conversation with most other people. He is somebody that lives in a different reality, end quote. Oh, God, does he ever? I can't wait till the son of a bitch finally goes gibbering insane, slobbering all over himself, and they have to dose him up with drugs and put him in a rubber bungalow someplace. Anyway, this filmmaker, Alex Holder, was granted exclusive access to Trump and his family. Unbelievable how Trump, oh, well, never mind, in the months before and after the 2020 election. And that gave Mr. Holder the opportunity to put together about 100 hours of footage of this crazy bastard, his two fucked up sons, and his oldest delusional daughter, talking in interviews and among themselves. And when the January 6th Select Committee learned about this, and by the way, it'll be aired on Discovery Plus in the coming months, but when the J6 Committee heard about this, they subpoenaed him, hoping to find footage that Mr. Holder had shot of this filthy family speaking candidly about events that are now the subject of this massive investigation. Anyway, Mr. Holder, I mean, it's just unbelievable. Trump is such a narcissistic son of a bitch. If he were asked to confess to murders, as long as he knew there was an audience, he would probably do it. But anyway, Mr. Holder said the footage that he has shot and his own interviews with Trump show that the orange vomit actually believes his bullshit story about voter fraud, even though there's no evidence anywhere to back up the claim. But Trump lives in a different world. And Mr. Holder added, in the days before January 6, 2021, Trump was, quote, absolutely convinced there was going to be violence that day. Holder said this, quote, it was so obvious. This was his last hurrah. He obviously had this ridiculous idea that intervening in this ceremonial process of certifying these results could somehow prevent President Biden from being inaugurated. Now, what I've got here are just a couple of excerpts from this podcast, Skullduggery. And the host of that, there are three of them, Michael Isikoff, who you know well, I think, Daniel Klaidman, and Victoria Bassetti. Isikoff, please walk us through how you got into this in the first place. How did you get access to the Trumps? Mr. Holder, I had sort of been building this documentary about the Middle East, and I met this individual who introduced me to the Trump family. But ultimately, they agreed to participate. I think the key thing here is that they were very, very confident they were going to win the election. I mean, the hubris was just absolutely remarkable. They were convinced it would be a repeat of 2016. You know, the pollsters were all wrong. It would be a massive surprise. One of the big lines that was used by Don Jr. throughout the campaign was, quote, let's make liberals cry again, end quote. Isikoff, what was your pitch to Trump? Holder, Well, I mean, the pitch was I wanted to understand who they were as people. They had always complained about the coverage that they were getting in the U.S. They were always complaining about the fake news media and all that. So let's try and understand who they are as people. And I'm speaking specifically about Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump, and then the president himself, and the interactions they have with each other, and the interaction they have with their father. And it's sort of got this, like, Succession, the TV series, Succession type vibe in the project, but also, you know, this is real life. It's a real life succession drama. Miss Bassetti, did you see their answers change over time? You began filming in September 2020, and you filmed all the way up and past January 2021. Did their answers change? Holder, no, they didn't change, and that's what was quite shocking. The fact that the events that took place just before they left office, well, they didn't give any indication to me that it registered. Other than Eric saying when I asked him about talking about January 6th, he goes, I don't want to talk about it. Let's skip the 6th. Isikoff, well, what about Trump? In a clip from the film, he tells you the supporters of his who came to Washington on January 6th were smart people who were angry with an election that they think was rigged. Holder, I probably heard that clip 400 times, right? And every single time I hear it, it gives me goosebumps, right? I think what he said was absolutely horrific. I mean, at the end of the day, he said the reason why those people went into the Capitol was because they think, he actually says this, I think that they think because the election was stolen, right? But who told them that the election was stolen? Mr. Clademan, why has Trump been so stubborn about his claims about the election? Holder, Donald Trump is not a rational player. I mean, he just isn't. You can't have a conversation with him in the same way that you have a conversation with most other people. He's somebody who lives in a different reality. He had started the lie about the election back in 2016. What I saw after the first interview with him in the White House was that he now became someone who believed his own lie. And that is a person who is delusional. That is a person who is incredibly dangerous because you can't debate with that person. There's no way that anyone can persuade Donald Trump that he's wrong. And this is something that's characteristic of him all the way through his life. And the series goes into this in the sense that he will never accept that he had done anything wrong. He will always double back. He's always right, and it's always somebody else's fault. I mean, he lives in cloud Cuckoo-Land. He's sitting in an interview in Mar-a-Lago saying that in front of a portrait, an actual oil painting of himself painted 25 to 30 years ago in a golf outfit. I mean, I actually asked him about that at the end of the interview. I was like, you got to tell me something about this painting. I mean, this is a guy who literally has paintings of himself in his house. I mean, he's just not a normal guy. I mean, you know? Oh, Jesus Christ. Woo! Woo! I can't wait till the film about this scum bastard is finally made, and it will be. Oh, my God. I'll bet there are movie script writers right now who are furiously trying to put together something that will catch the interest of investors and producers. I don't think there'll be the slightest hesitancy on any well-known producer in Hollywood to glom up a biopic, as they say in the business, of Donald Trump. And it's going to be a mind fuck. It really is. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity.
But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.